Hi, welcome to Season 2 of the Baby Manual podcast for parents of toddlers. This season will help you feel confident as you navigate the difficulties of toddlerhood, from tantrums to sleep schedules to potty training. I'm your host, a pediatrician and mom, Dr. Carole Keim. Hello, and welcome to the 6th episode of 2nd season of Baby Manual podcast. This is for your 3-year-old child. So 3 years old, that is one age that I hear over and over again from parents saying, I thought 2 was bad, and then they hit 3. So what happens at age 3, we sometimes call it the three-nager phase. There's really a lot of emotional growth, a lot of drama, and also big feelings and tantrums over little things. And then they also go through a phase where they ask why repeatedly, and that can really try your patience. They become oppositional at this age and defiant. At age 2, they were just oppositional where you would ask them to do something and they'd say no. But at age 3, they say no and then they take it so far as to go and do exactly what you don't want them to be doing, just to make it even harder to accomplish that task you first wanted them to get done. So they're really pushing those limits and seeing if you will still love them even though they act this way, and seeing where those boundaries lie. So having said all that, even though I knew this, and when I was going into it as a parent, I still lost my temper a few times. I lost my cool. It was really hard. It's a very difficult phase to get through. And some 3-year-olds don't go through this, but many do. So just to be prepared for that, just remember that your child is partly testing you and making sure you still love them. And sometimes their behavior should not be taken at face value. Like maybe they're angry about something else, or they've been feeling frustrated throughout the day. So we'll talk through that a little bit more later in the podcast about what to do for those sorts of situations. So on a social level for development at this age, they're having really elaborate, imaginative play. They tell really good stories at this age, and they love to play pretend. They like to pretend that they're animals, cats and dogs especially, it seems. And that's a very normal and really cute phase that they go through. They can typically put on a shirt by themselves now at age 3 and a coat or a jacket. One trick that you can do is put the jacket on the floor upside down in front of them. So the head, top of the jacket is facing them, and have them lean forward, put their arms through and flip it over their head, and it puts it on. It's a really easy way to get a jacket on at this age. They can play with other kids and they can start to share at age 3. So you can start teaching them a little bit more about sharing. And you can tell them when when they're interacting with someone and they don't share, or they're not being a good friend, you can just have them look at their friend's face and have them try to guess what their friend is thinking or feeling. And they can typically, let you know what they think their friend is feeling. And you can sort of start to talk about, what could we do differently next time at this age? Don't expect them to get it right away. It's definitely a learning process, but this is the beginning of being able to understand those kinds of things. They can follow a multi-step command when they want to at this age. So that's something like go into your room, take off your jacket, and hang it on the hook. Something that has multiple steps like that. They're able to keep that all in mind and get through it and do it. They can typically put 3 words together. So short sentences and 3-word phrases are common at this age. And their speech is about 3/4 intelligible to strangers. So when they speak, if they make mistakes, I know it's really tempting to repeat back what they said because it's really cute, but try to repeat it back in correct grammar and pronunciation. And that way they will learn how to say things over time. They can also tell you a story at this age of something that happened from a book or TV or at school. And keep in mind, they also make up stories. So they might be telling you a story and then they end up that they're, on the moon with their friend. So just, enjoy those stories, encourage them to keep telling you, creatively. Ask them about their day if they were at daycare or preschool, and definitely engage with them. And keep in mind that some of it might not be true. Children can compare things with words like bigger and smaller, and they can understand simple prepositions like on and under, and that asking why. They will ask why repeatedly. They don't always want to know the answer why. They typically are just trying to have a conversation, and that's one easy word that they can use that gets you to keep talking. So, when they ask why, and you're getting down the rabbit hole and it's like, okay, at the point where I just don't know anymore, you can start asking them, why do you want to know, or change the subject, or you can even do that earlier on before they've asked it a whole bunch of times. But yeah, just talk with them and teach them things because that's what they're really wanting when they're asking why. Many children start preschool around age 2 to 3, so they're probably in preschool at this age. And I've talked a little bit about preschool types in my previous couple of podcasts, and I'll do one just on preschools pretty soon. And daycare is like preschool, but they don't have a formal curriculum like a preschool does. So, yeah, they're typically getting friends at this age. They can't always name their friends, but they know that they have them and they're learning how to be good friends. So, daycare settings or, any sort of group childcare type of settings are great at this age for social interactions. For motor skills at a 3-year-old age, they can eat independently. So they can use utensils and eat without making a giant mess anymore. They're typically potty trained for pee during the day. They should have all of the motor skills to get themselves to the bathroom, take off their clothes, sit on the toilet, get back off, put the clothes back on, wash their hands, and dry their hands. If they're not yet doing that, it is okay, but it's a good time to start teaching them because they developmentally are ready to start doing those things. It takes a while for children to be potty trained for poop after they've been potty trained for pee and also to be potty trained at night. So both of those can take 6 to 12 months. Sometimes even longer can be normal. Yeah, if your child is potty trained for pee during the day and only that is still okay at this age. A 3-year-old can usually pedal a tricycle, so they have the muscles and skills to be able to do that sort of a movement. They can climb on and off chairs and couches. If your furniture is not bolted down to the walls, it's a great idea to do that right now because if they open the drawers of a dresser and climb up it, it can tip over because the weight of the clothes in the drawers, when they pull them out, it changes the center of gravity. They can be crushed. It can be really dangerous. Also, bookshelves. Children sometimes will climb up bookshelves and those can tip over onto them and it can be very dangerous. So make sure you have furniture anchors sticking those to the walls before your child climbs on it and gets in trouble. They can jump forward at this age. So a lot of 3-year-olds will climb up onto the couch, jump off of it, and many of them get injured on the coffee table. So if you have a table with sharp corners, it might be a good idea to get those little rubber protectors, cover those corners in case your child does do that. And yes, they love jumping and also going to playgrounds is great at this age, but keep in mind that they may try to jump off of high surfaces. So keep them within arm's reach at all times. They can draw a circle at this age. So you might see them starting to draw circles as they're scribbling. They can also sometimes draw a person as a face with arms and legs attached to it. I love when they get to that milestone. So keep encouraging them to draw and ask them to draw people. And it's really adorable. And they can cut with scissors. So you can teach them how to cut. Make sure they keep their thumb up. Keep your thumb up when you cut, when you cut, when you cut. And, teach them how to cut safely on just regular paper with child-safe scissors. And then make sure the scissors are put away and out of reach when they are not using them because a lot of kids will cut their own hair at some point. All right, for behavior, like I said, they are testing boundaries at this age. So they are trying to see what they can get away with and do as much as they can and get away with it. So you just need to be really firm on boundaries. Make sure that all caregivers have equal boundaries. So what is okay? How many cookies are they allowed to have when they ask for them? Or are they allowed to have screen time? Like what things can they get away with? Are there any consequences? Are there toys that have been taken away for some reason, because they were not playing with them in a safe way? Like whatever type of things, you have to have these firm boundaries and limits among all the caregivers. If you tell them that there's going to be a consequence for something, you need to follow through on that consequence because they will learn whether or not you're serious and they will test it every time. There's a lot of defiance at this age. So a lot of you ask them to pick up the toys and they take them and they scatter them further around the room. So one way to handle that is to just sort of sit down on the floor with them and say, hey, I'm going to help you, and try to be really empathetic about it. A lot of time they're just really flooded with emotion and they don't know how to express that. And so that comes through as this really angry and defiant and explosive behavior. Yeah, then if you can try to turn things into a game, let's see who can put away most things the fastest, or, Let's see if we can find all the things that are blue and put those away first. Things like that can make it fun. And when you're working together, they're a little bit more likely to comply with you. If you notice their good behavior and lightly praise it, like, oh, wow, you picked up those toys so well. Or, oh, I see that you got so many in your arms right now that you're putting away. Noticing those types of things can really encourage them to keep doing them. And also offering them choices throughout the day can really help them to feel more empowered and like they're, in charge of their lives, more in control, so that they're less likely to have those other power struggles over things like brushing teeth and putting stuff away and getting dressed. Offering two reasonable choices any opportunity you get. Do you want to put on your shoes or do you want me to help you put them on? Do you want this foot or this foot? Do you want this cup or this cup? Which spoon would you rather have? Do you want your sandwich cut into squares or triangles? Which stuffy would you rather take with us in the car? Like any time that you can give them two options that you're okay with either choice, do that to them. And then they're going to feel like they're really in control. And yeah, it'll strengthen your relationship. It'll make them more likely to actually hurry up and do things when they have to. Also, you can start to teach them what's okay to do when they're angry. And you can Google the anger wheel of choice. There's a lot of different ones, a lot of different choices to give children. Things like squishing Play-Doh in their hands is a great thing, or playing with a poppet, or chewing on one of those silicone necklaces that are meant for chewing on for babies, or screaming into a pillow, or squeezing a pillow really tightly. Like whatever type of things are okay. Throwing ping pong balls in the house. They can't do a lot of damage. That's one great thing to be able to throw in the house that, the only thing we throw in the house is ping pong balls. These are all things that children can do when they're angry that are not going to hurt anyone and not going to break anything. They're not going to be destructive, but it still allows them to express that they're angry. Maybe even, crossing their arms, stomping their feet, walking outside to shout, those kind of things. Yeah. So whatever you think will be okay for them to do, you can make a list. You can cut out little pictures and make like a little poster for them so they have ideas. And also keep in mind, they're still not very much in control of their very big emotions that they have for their tiny bodies. So it's going to take some practice for this. All right. So for parenting stuff that I recommend at this time, remember routines and limits around bedtime and meals, because those can very easily slip. Children at this age are having that weird eating pattern still. A lot of times they skip a meal, they pick at one meal, and they eat one meal. So that one meal that they eat might be at school. You might not be seeing it and you might think that they're not eating much at home, but they still seem to be growing. They might eat at home and just pick at stuff at school. Or some children will start to have normal eating patterns around 3.5, and some will have it earlier. So your child might start eating better. They might also still be in that phase where they only eat about 5 different foods. So remember to just keep offering lots of fruit and vegetables cut up for them, at every meal. Try to do at least half a plate of fruit and veggies with every meal that you offer. At some point, they will start picking at them. It might take a while, but they will get used to seeing them and start to try stuff like that. And then with bedtime, it's great to have a bedtime routine. A lot of families will do a bath as part of that. And then, change into pajamas, brush teeth, read some stories, maybe sing a song, and have some snuggle time and tucked in and turn out the lights kind of a thing. Whatever works for your family is great, but try to be consistent and try to start it around the same time every night. Keep in mind, children at this age need 10 to 14 hours of sleep to be well rested. So make sure that you're starting bedtime nice and early. A lot of time it's right after dinner. You just start getting them ready for bed at this age so that they can get enough sleep. You want to encourage fantasy play, so play with them as much as you can. If you haven't seen the show Bluey, I highly recommend it. It's this really cute cartoon with these families that, they're dogs, and they play all of these great games with their kids for like everyday life situations. And so there's so many great ideas there. But that sort of thing, just play with them throughout the day, make everything fun. You can start to play games that require taking turns. So things like card games, you can play Go Fish. You can play things like simple board games. There's lots of board games for young children at this age. Things like Chutes and Ladders when we were kids. Things that you just take turns and count. Those are great skills for them to be learning. You can start to teach them about empathy, where, you have them look at someone's face after they've done something, or look at, when you're maybe watching TV, how do you think that person is feeling? They can start to guess, but don't expect them to fully grasp it yet. It takes a little while. You can start rhyming together. Dr. Seuss books are great for this at this age. You can ask them to make up rhymes. You can say cat and see what rhymes with cat and see how many words they can come up with. You can let them start to pretend to read to you at bedtime. So sometimes, you can read maybe a story and they'll read a story or they'll want to read first. They're not actually reading usually. They're just pointing out the pictures and guessing what's going on and telling the story to you. Sometimes they'll memorize books because they like to have a lot of repetition too. But yeah, let them pretend to read to you. It's super fun. And it's great for their development. You want to try to limit TV to 1 hour of high quality programming that you watch together. So things like PBS Kids, Disney, things that I've mentioned previously, those are all great for you guys to watch together. And do talk about it while you're watching it. Make it more interactive so it's not just kind of sitting and vegging out. Try to avoid TV during meal times, and I suggest no TVs in any of the bedrooms in the house. Also, you want to avoid screen time for at least 2 hours before bed because it can interfere with your brain waves and make it a little harder to get into deep sleep and really get that full restful sleep. They can also make kids a little bit hyper and hard to put down at bedtime, make them a little restless. And so try for, avoiding screen time 2 hours before bedtime. And then also just be aware of your own screen time use around your child because they pick up on subtle things that we do. And if you are frequently on your phone, then you can expect them to want to also be on a device like that a lot of the time. So just to be more mindful of that and try to limit that. And also, anytime you're on your phone, it's typically taking away from interaction with your child. If you're doing things together, like maybe you're looking at photos together on the phone, that's great. That's a good bonding activity. But if you're doing something on your own, then it is taking your attention away from your child. So try to just be aware of that and limit your own screen time use as well. For nutrition at this age, like I said, they typically eat a meal, skip a meal, pick at one meal, and can be really picky eaters at this age. So just, try to have a lot of cut up fruit and veggies ready to go and maybe some healthy dips like hummus or soy sauce, vinegar, dressings, things like that, that they can dunk their fruit and veggies into, or I guess just veggies for all those things I mentioned. But yes, to make them a little bit more fun, ketchup, whatever kind of things. Water's the best thing they can drink and can be the only thing that they drink. If they are drinking milk, you want to limit it to 24 ounces or less per day. And if they're drinking juice, you want to limit it to 4 ounces or less per day. And even if that's, 100% fresh juice. Juice has quite a lot of sugar in it, and it's almost as bad as soda for your body. So if they can just do water, water's the very best thing. For potty training at this age, they are often potty trained during the day, but many children are not yet, and that is okay too. You want to encourage frequent potty sitting to avoid constipation because once they become constipated, it can become a vicious cycle where it hurts to poop. So the next time they have to go, they don't want to let it out and they get scared. They hold it in longer, and the longer that poop sits in their colon, the more water gets absorbed and the harder it gets. And so then the next time when they finally do go, it's even more painful. And then the cycle just kind of repeats. So that's why we have to go the route of things like Miralax and like really, heavy duty aggressive stool softeners to get them to go again in the toilet. So try to avoid that in the first place by just having them sit frequently on the potty when you are doing potty training. And try to dress them in clothing that's really easy for them to get in and out of. So like pants that are really easy to slip on and off. For safety, their car seat can be forward facing, but it also can still be rear facing. It's safe to keep them rear facing as long as they still meet the weight and height limits of their current car seat. And rear facing is a little bit safer because toddlers have pretty big heads and relatively weak necks. And when they're forward facing and you tap on the brakes, their head goes forward and back and they could potentially get whiplash. So with rear facing, the seat just cushions their head when you hit the brakes. But if they are forward facing, that is absolutely okay at this age. Make sure that if they have anything with wheels, like bikes, roller skates, skateboards, scooters, that they're also using a helmet. So if the wheels come out, the helmet also comes out. If there are any firearms or guns in the home, you want to remove those ideally or have them locked away, unloaded, and have the ammunition somewhere else so that your child cannot get access to it. Firearm injuries are a very big cause of morbidity and mortality in this age group. You want to supervise them around dogs and cars because they don't fully understand yet that dogs might bite them and that cars aren't always aware that they're there and could hit them. They need to be at touch supervision near water, which means within arm's reach that you can reach out and grab them if they were to slip under the water. When you're in a pool, around bathtubs, children can also fall into toilets and drown. So the best way to baby-proof a bathroom is to keep the door closed all the time. And then second best, there are things like toilet locks and things that make it harder for them to open handles and things like that. Try to move furniture away from windows because they could potentially climb out of them. And then also use furniture anchors if they're climbing on furniture. And also you want to use door locks and window locks that children can't open them. For the 3-year-old checkup, there's typically not any routine vaccines at this checkup other than, the seasonal vaccines like flu and COVID vaccine. At age 4, they're going to get 2 boosters, the MMR chickenpox booster and the DTaP polio booster. So that's going to be next year. It is okay to allow your child to answer questions, but keep in mind that they might get things wrong. And so you might have to jump in and give some answers yourself. And 3-year-olds typically do still feel comfortable during this exam, but this is the time that we start talking about body safety around adults. We talk about how no adult should show interest in your private parts. We talk about why they're called private parts, and we use the medical names for them. So vulva and penis and scrotum and vagina and butt. So those are great ways to start talking about your child or talking with your child about private parts too. You can tell them what their private parts are, that it is not okay for grownups to try to touch their private parts, that the only time we really talk about them is in private places, like in the bathroom. And it is okay for, someone to help you wipe in the bathroom. It is okay at the doctor's office for them to examine your private parts because it's part of your body and it's part of your checkup. But outside of that, it's not okay for friends to be asking about it. It's not okay to show it to friends, to have friends try to touch it or to touch friends' private parts, those kind of things. You can also ask your doctor if you have any specific questions about things like preschools, behavior, tantrums, child's nutrition, whether they should be on vitamins, probiotics, potty training, constipation, sleep routines, all of these kinds of things. We can help advise you more specifically during your checkup. And just keep in mind, they should be going to the dentist once or twice per year. So if they haven't been recently, this is a good time to schedule a visit. All right, thank you for listening. In the future, we are going to be deep diving more into specific topics about children. So make sure you tune in 2 weeks. Thank you for listening to the Baby Manual podcast. Please hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss the new episodes as they come out. I would also love it if you could leave me a review. You can also follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook for quick tips and tricks that will make you feel like an expert.